Our opening words are from, so I can speak German, but I can't speak French. So if I have this at all right, I'll be grateful. Guy de Maupassant. Anyone? Is that close? Okay. Guy. Thank you. See? All right. So, Guy says, how fathomless the mystery of the unseen is. We cannot plumb its depths with our feeble senses, with eyes which cannot see the infinitely small or the infinitely great, nor anything too close or too distant, such as the beings who live on a star or the creatures which live in a drop of water. With ears that deceive us by converting vibrations of the air into tones that we can hear, for they are sprites which miraculously change movement into sound, a metamorphosis which gives birth to harmonies which turn the silent agitation of nature into song. With our sense of smell, which is poorer than any dog's, with our sense of taste, which is barely capable of detecting the age of wine. If we had other senses which would work other miracles for us, how many more things we would not discover around us. This is a poem. I was trying to work with Larry's theme, but as happens at work too, I went my own route, Larry, on this, and I'm sorry. He's my boss also, and I'm not a very good employee. So, but it is a little bit of those things too. I just thinking about the infinite, as I said with the story, it got me thinking about the boundless and infinite within us and the things that we create and do. So that's a little bit where this goes. This is a poem by Charlotte Erickson. This is for us who sing, write, dance, act, study, run, and love. And this is for doing it even if no one will ever know, because the beauty is in the act of doing it, not what it can lead to. This is for the times I lose myself while writing, singing, playing, and no one is around and they will never know, but I will forever remember. And that shines brighter than any praise or fame or glory I will ever have. And this is for you who write or play or ring or read or sing, by yourself, the light off and the door closed, when the world is asleep and the stars are aligned, and maybe no one will ever hear it or read your words or know your thoughts, but it doesn't make it any less glorious. It makes it ethereal, mysterious, infinite, for it belongs to you and whatever God or spirit you believe in, and only you can decide how much it meant and means and will forever mean, and other people will experience it too, through you, through your spirit, through the way you talk, through the way you walk and love and laugh and care. And I never meant to write this long, but what I want to say is, don't try to present your art by making other people read or hear or see or touch it. Make them feel it. Wear your art like your heart on your sleeve and keep it alive by making people feel a little better, feel a little lighter. Create art in order for yourself to become yourself. And let your very existence be your song, your poem, your story. Let your very identity be your book. Let the way people say your name sound like the sweetest melody. So, go create. Take photographs in the wood. Run alone in the rain and sing your heart out high up on a mountain where no one will ever hear and your very existence will be the most hypnotizing scar. May your life be your art and you will never be forgotten. And it's my pleasure today to introduce Dr. Larry Skogen. He is the president of Bismarck State College. He was the interim chancellor for a couple years, was glad to come back to us at BSC when that was over. And he is the author of many works on federal Indian policies and the history of the American West. And I would also say, as a person who works with him and for him, one of the things I really appreciate about Larry is his snappy sense of style and our great shared appreciation for a really good pair of shoes. So with that, I would like to welcome Larry Skogen.
Thank you, Marnie. Did we do your evaluation yet? Just checking. Yeah, I stand before you today as testimony of how dangerous it is to have dinner with Rita Kelly. But I do appreciate the opportunity. Also, a couple of caveats here. First is that Marnie has promised physical punishment should I break the time limit here. So I'm talking about the infinity, so I thought I'd better write it down. So I'm going to go from my notes very carefully today. As well, I will say if you're expecting a lot about Emerson or transcendentalism, I apologize up front. I will mention that briefly, and you'll get why I mention it, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about them. But but their importance to us is, of course, a part of what I'm going to be talking about. So I apologize to begin with on reading most of this, but I'm going to get it within the time limit here, Marnie. In his book *Sapien*, Israeli historian Yuval Noah Harari argues that since Earth's birth 4.5 billion years ago, no living species has catalyzed changes to our planet more than modern humans, for good or bad. We have established inhabitable places over nearly every alterable location on Earth, from the Antarctica to mountaintops around the world to ocean floors to the lips of volcanoes. We have paved or otherwise built over parcels of lands for roads, cities, and airports. We have laid millions of miles of railroads over habitable and inhabitable reaches of the earth. In the process of all this, our societies and our lifestyles have polluted our air, water, and lands, resulting in modern humans having driven other species to extinction. There have been, according to scientists, 5 mass extinctions since complex life began around 500 million years ago. But what's different about what is happening now, as we sit on the verge of another mass extinction, is that we have caused it. According to author Helen Pilcher in her book, Bring Back the King, quote, current extinction rates are around 1,000 times higher than during pre-human times. And in the future, this figure could increase by another whole order of magnitude. So what's going on? How can modern humans have such an impact on, in the words of Carl Sagan, our pale blue dot, a reference to the picture taken by Voyager 1 of Earth as the spaceship left our solar system? Yuval Harari credits this transformative power on our ability to collaborate and cooperate with each other, on our ability to believe in fictions that result in everything from governments to religions, and our ability to trust where there's no rational or empirical reason to trust. The acceptance of money, for example, comes immediately to mind. We accept payment for our work, trusting that others will see value in that money and exchange it for things we need, like housing, clothing, and food. Those abilities have created a species that walked out of Africa, killed or absorbed other humanid species they encountered, established communities, pushed the limits of their travels to new and wondrous corners of the earth, and grew in population to inhabit all of those corners. The modern human population reached 1 billion in the year 1800. 200 years later, we number 7.4 billion, and there will be over 9 billion of our species by the midpoint of our current century, and 11.2 billion by the 22nd century, assuming we survive. How do we mere mortals, destined to inhabit but a small space in time within the enormity of seemingly limitless time and space, begin to comprehend our individual and collective roles in this thing we call life? I certainly have neither the time nor intellect to answer that question, but I am here to fill up a little bit of your day. So let's try to envision how our time and our lives fit into the infinity. As an historian, I like and tend to look back. So using time that we can relate to, let's take a look back in time, how we fit into all time. And let's use a vision that we can all understand. We're going to use a pie chart today. All of us can understand a pie chart. Okay, we're going to envision a pie chart. Since learning from Walter Isaacson in his wonderful biography of Albert Einstein, that Einstein's strength was his ability to visualize. I figure this exercise is valid then for us to try to visualize a pie chart. Einstein, Isaacson tells us, began thinking about relativity as he envisioned lightning striking a railroad track while a woman rode inside a train and a man stood alongside the tracks. Lightning striking simultaneously at 2 points on the track, one in front of the train and one behind the train, would appear different to each one of these observers, and thus would appear relative to them. Now I've told you everything I know about the theory of relativity. Okay, so now I'm going to get back to my pie chart, and I understand those a little better. Because I'm standing in a Unitarian church, it seems natural to use Ralph Waldo Emerson as our benchmark. So, for example, he was born in 1803. In fact, I'm 1 month shy of speaking on his birthday to you. So to round it off, let's use 200 years since the birth of Emerson and American Unitarianism as our benchmark for all other human existence. And as we think about 200 years, keep in mind that a century represents about 3 generations. So the 200 years that we're using here today as our benchmark equates to roughly 6 generations of families. Now, I was thinking about that as I was writing this. I'm off my script now. Sorry, Marnie. I was thinking about that. I think most of us can get to great-grandparents, but 6 generations would be your great-great-great-grandparents. And I'm not sure how many of us can get that far. Char's been on Ancestry.com. Way too much. Okay, all right. Congratulations. Okay, so let's get started. If we were to look at the Declaration of Independence of the United States in 1776, for example, or 241 years on our pie chart, so we've got a pie chart with 241 years, the 200 years of Emerson would make up 83% of our pie chart. In other words, since the founding of the United States, American transcendental thought, mainly Emerson-inspired thinking and American Unitarianism, has been around 83% of the time. That's a big piece of our pie chart. Well then, since Columbus was lost and miscalculated his voyage and he stumbled into the New World, it has been 525 years. If that now becomes our pie chart, 525 years, American Unitarianism occupies 38% of the pie chart. So visualize just a little over a third of it. And Columbus sailed for the Spaniards Isabella and Ferdinand, called the Catholic monarchs for their support of the church and Christendom in general. They had, after all, driven the Muslim Moors out of Spain and ended that threat to Western Europe. Christendom, as you know, dates to the life of Jesus of Nazareth 2,000 years ago. If our pie chart now encompasses 2,000 years, American Unitarianism makes up 10% of that slice. So we got a little 10% slice. One could argue then that the last 200 years of modern human existence and activities makes up 1/10 of the time since Jesus Christ walked the earth, and that certainly is a fairly significant figure. Now, Christianity survived among a host of religions contemporary to and predating it, in large part because of the written word. And writing is certainly one of modern humans' greatest accomplishments. It allowed us to communicate over great distances, but more importantly, over great times. Knowledge could be transferred generationally over many generations, and not just father to son and mother to daughter, but knowledge could be transferred to us in 2017 from Plato, Galileo, Lincoln, and Einstein, just to name a few. Such a written language first appeared 5,000 years ago when government officials kept track of the storage of grains in what is today Iraq. Now our 5,000-year pie chart has a 4% slice that makes up the 200 years since Emerson. Modern humans, of course, populated today's Europe and the Middle East well before writing appeared. By most estimates, Homo sapiens sapiens, that's us, modern humans, had absorbed or killed off most earlier hominid species by around 40,000 years ago. That means that our last 200 years of modern human existence makes up a mere 0.5% of time since 40,000 years ago. 0.5%. There is no doubt that Homo sapiens sapiens evolved in Africa. When their invasion from Africa to the rest of the world occurred, however, is a little unclear in the mist of time, but probably around 100,000 years ago, give or take a few tens of thousands of years. If our pie chart now holds 100,000 years, our last 200 years makes up a slice of 0.2% of our chart. Homo sapiens sapiens and all the other humanids developed from a species similar to Lucy, a 3.2 million year old female discovered in Africa in 1974. Our last 200 years makes up a slice of 0.006% of the last 3.2 million years. And mammals, such as Lucy, evolved only after the extinction of the dinosaurs, which occurred 65 million years ago. So our time as modern humans, since the birth of Emerson, makes up 0.0003% of time since the extinction of the dinosaurs. And by the way, for those of you that know Charlotte as a mathematician, she checked all my math on this. Okay. I just as well jump ahead here a little bit. None of this would be possible without the creation of Earth 4.5 billion years ago. So our last 200 years would make up a slice of 0.00004% of the time since our pale blue dot has circled our sun. I won't even calculate the time since the Big Bang 14 billion years ago. So the point is that we modern humans and the time and space we've occupied is infinitesimal compared to the near infinity of time, of all time. And yet, in very short order, we have threatened not only the existence of other species, but the very survival of Earth and, of course, ourselves. So given that many species have preceded us on our pale blue dot and are now extinct by force of nature or by actions of modern humans, the question is, what happens to us? Referring again to author Helen Pilcher, she proposes that, quote, our own time inevitably will come to pass. So the question is when, not if, we become extinct. Historian Yuval Harari believes, quote, sapiens will soon disappear. With the help of novel technologies, within a few centuries or even decades, sapiens will upgrade themselves into completely different beings, enjoying godlike qualities and abilities. History began, he continues, when humans invented gods, and will end when humans become gods, unquote. Thus, we either become extinct like the dinosaurs through forces of nature or the cosmos, or we become extinct because we have used technology to transform ourselves into something that is no longer a Homo sapiens sapien. On this second point, I'll defer to those who understand artificial intelligence and other means by which fabricated human intelligence and consciousness become technological feasibilities. However, it is worth reminding ourselves that as Richard Leakey, son of the famous Leakey duel who proved the origin of modern humans in Africa, said, it is perverse in the extreme that hatred, prejudice, and conflict should thrive in a world made materially sophisticated through the almost limitless inventiveness of the human mind, unquote. Whether that human inventiveness can create an uber Homo sapien sapien among the conflicts of the world remains to be seen. And I won't currently provide an opinion on that. However, on Pilcher's claim that we shall become extinct as a species, just as all species preceding us have, and not housed within technology, let me state a position. It is my hope that when we become extinct, it is not of our own doing. It is my fervent hope that we don't so pollute our waters, our air, our environment, so that our lives become unsustainable. It is my hope that because of erratic and unpredictable world leaders, we are not led into a nuclear holocaust that destroys our very existence. It is my hope that if we are to become extinct, it is because forces of nature or of the vast cosmos have rained upon us such devastation that we succumbed to it, and because of that devastation, no longer exist as a species. Thus, it is my hope that in the great book of universal truth, our epitaph is, "Here lies humanity. As a species, they lived well. They were good stewards of the planet upon which they lived. They are now extinct because it was their turn."
Closing words today are by Stephen Hawking, speaking of the infinite. Remember to look up at the stars and not down at your feet. Try to make sense of what you see and wonder about what makes the universe exist. Be curious, and however difficult life may seem, there is always something you can do and succeed at. It matters that you just don't give up.